Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into something really fascinating, a question you might have wondered about. Is there, like, a specific Jordan gene?
It's a common thought, isn't it? But genetics, especially for a whole population, it's rarely about just one gene.
Right. It's more complex. We often think in simple terms, but human history, especially somewhere like Jordan with such deep roots, it's way more intricate.
Exactly. Think of it less like a single ingredient and more like a rich mosaic. We're looking at layers of ancestry, migration, culture, all shaping the genetic story over thousands of years.
And that's our mission today for you. We've pulled together some incredible research, ancient DNA, modern health studies, to really explore this.
We're aiming to paint a picture of Jordan's unique genetic blend.
Yeah, we promise some surprising facts, a real journey back in time. We want you to come away truly well-informed, understanding the nuances.
Beyond just the headlines.
Okay, so let's tackle that first question head on. Is there one Jordan gene?
Well, the short answer is no.
Right, but the interesting part isn't the no, it's the why not. What is special is the mix, isn't it?
Precisely. It's this blend of really deep ancient roots in the Levant, layered with later migrations, and then shaped significantly by cultural traditions that have persisted.
So it's about continuity, but with added layers, not like hitting a reset button.
You could think of it like a stew that's been simmering for millennia in the same pot, the Levant. New ingredients get added, but the base is ancient.
Okay, I like that analogy. How ancient are we talking?
Well, get this. Ancient DNA from sites right there in Jordan, like Ghazal near Amman, shows that even back in the Bronze Age, maybe 5,000 years ago, the population wasn't genetically uniform.
Already a mix back then.
Absolutely. Studies model those Bronze Age people as roughly 56% local Neolithic, descended from the first farmers in the region, and about 44% from populations related to groups in Iran and the Caucasus.
Wow, so 44% from quite far afield, even then.
Yes, it shows the region was a crossroads, a melting pot for a very, very long time, not some isolated place.
And how much of that ancient core, that Bronze Age recipe, persists today in modern Jordanians?
A surprising amount, actually. Present-day Levantines, Jordanians included, carry a really significant chunk of that genetic legacy forward.
So despite all the history empires, migrations, that basic structure held.
Largely, yes. There have been additions, of course, subtle shifts, but the foundation shows remarkable stability. It's a quieter story than the history books sometimes tell, the ones focused on conquests and collapses.
That is interesting. It kind of makes you think differently about identity, doesn't it, if the genetic thread runs that deep?
It really does raise questions about how we connect biological continuity with our modern sense of belonging and identity in the Levant.
Okay, so deep history provides the base. But you mentioned culture shaping things, too. This is where it gets really interesting, right?
Yeah.
How everyday traditions, like marriage, leave genetic footprints.
Oh, absolutely. Cultural practices can have very direct, measurable impacts on population's genetic structure. And a key one in Jordan and elsewhere in the region has been the tradition of consanguineous marriage, marriage between relatives, often cousins.
And that has genetic consequences.
It does. From a purely genetic standpoint, if related individuals have children, there's a higher chance that both parents might carry the same rare recessive gene variant.
Which increases the odds of a child inheriting two copies and having a particular condition.
Exactly. And for population geneticists, this pattern leaves a distinct signature in the DNA. We see more of what are called long runs of homozygosity.
Homozygosity, meaning identical gene copies from both parents.
Yes. Long stretches of DNA where the genetic code inherited from the mother and the father is identical, suggesting they shared a relatively recent common ancestor. It's like a clear genetic fingerprint of the practice.
And we actually have data tracking this in Jordan.
We do. There was a key study in Amman that looked at this over time. Before 1950, first cousin marriages were around 20.2%. Then it actually peaked between 1950 and 1979, hitting about 28.5%.
So it increased mid-century. Interesting.
Well, it did. Though an older nationwide sample from the late 60s, early 70s suggested it might have been even higher then, maybe around 32%. But since 1980, the Amman study showed a decline, down to about 19.5%.
What's driving that decline more recently?
Several factors, really. Increased access to education, especially for women, plays a role. Urbanization is another big one. People moving to cities often have wider social circles.
Right, less geographically constrained choices.
Exactly, and just general population movements mix things up too. These societal shifts tend to broaden the pool of potential partners.
So this brings up a complex point for you, the listener. We see this trend changing. Is the decline purely a positive for public health, reducing certain genetic risks.
That's certainly one aspect, yes.
But on the other hand, for some families, these traditional marriage patterns were about strong family alliances, trust, keeping communities tight-knit. Is something lost there?
It's a genuine tension. How do you balance public health goals with deeply ingrained cultural values and family structures? There isn't always an easy answer.
And you mentioned Jordan has taken a specific approach.
Yes, Jordan has leaned into public health measures like premarital screening, particularly focusing on conditions like thalassemia, to mitigate the health risks while respecting family choices.
Okay, let's pivot slightly and talk more about those specific health conditions that these genetic insights actually connect to, the things you might hear about in a public health context in Jordan.
Right, moving from the population level to specific, actionable health information.
So what's a key example?
Well, thalassemia is definitely one. It's an inherited blood disorder affecting hemoglobin, the protein carrying oxygen in your red blood cells.
And it's relatively common in Jordan.
The carrier rate is estimated around 2 to 4%. That might sound small, but it translates to a significant number of people affected.
Do we have numbers on that?
Yeah, figures from 2017 suggested around 1,450 patients registered nationally. A more recent report, I think from 2023, mentioned about 656 patients being treated within the Ministry of Health system. So it impacts many families.
Which makes screening really important.
Critically important, screening and genetic counseling have been really effective in reducing the number of babies born with the severe form, and importantly, doing it in a way that supports families without stigma.
Another one you sometimes hear about, maybe because of the unusual trigger, is G6PD deficiency. The fava bean thing.
Ah, yes, G6PD deficiency. It's memorable because certain things like fava beans for some people or specific drugs can trigger a reaction, causing red blood cells to break down.
And this one has a sex link.
Yeah, it does. It's an X-linked addition. That means it's carried on the X chromosome.
So it affects males more often or more severely.
Both, generally. A large study of newborns in Amman between 2016 and 2020 found the overall prevalence was about 1.44%. But break that down. It was 2.38% in males and only 0.36% in females. That's classic X-linked inheritance right there.
And what's the main health impact?
It's a major cause of newborn jaundice, sometimes severe enough to need urgent treatment. So knowing a baby has it is crucial.
Which again points to the value of screening.
Definitely. Neonatal screening allows for quick identification, and then parents can get advice on avoiding triggers like certain medications or foods. It's very manageable with awareness.
It's not all about risks, though, is it? Genetics also tell stories of adaptation, like milk tolerance. Why can some adults drink milk easily and others not so much?
Right. Lactase persistence, the ability to digest lactose milk sugar into adulthood, is a fantastic evolutionary story.
And in Jordan, like the rest of the Near East, it's not a simple on-off switch.
No, it's more of a patchwork. You find a variety of different gene variants linked to adult milk digestion across Near Eastern populations.
Why the variety? What drove this?
It's strongly tied to the history of animal herding in the region. Raising cattle, goats, sheep for milk became important millennia ago.
And being able to drink that milk as an adult would have been an advantage.
A huge advantage, especially during certain periods. Scientists think a major climate shift around 4,200 years ago, things getting much drier, might have really selected for people who could rely on milk as a stable source of nutrition and fluid when other food sources were scarce.
So environmental pressure favored those genes.
It seems likely. And what's cool is that researchers are still finding new genetic variants linked to lactase persistence in different populations, beyond the main one known in Europeans. It's definitely a live research area.
Okay, so let's sort of zoom out now. We've covered ancient roots, cultural practices, specific health links. What's the big picture? What makes Jordan's genetic story special?
Well, as we said, it's not about one gene or about being superior. The special part is in the structure, the layers.
The depth of history you can see there.
Exactly. You have these incredibly deep Levant roots, that Bronze Age signal still clear today, showing amazing continuity through massive historical changes. That's point one.
In point two.
Point two is the subtle regional substructure. You can actually see slight genetic distinctions between different groups within Jordan, say, Bedouin communities compared to city dwellers or people from long-settled farming villages.
Shaped by their different histories of movement and marriage patterns?
Precisely. Researchers comparing Bedouin samples with general Jordanian samples find measurable genetic differences that align with their distinct lifestyles and social structures over time. It reflects that diversity within the country.
And this brings us back to how policy meets culture. We talked about thalassemia screening.
Right. Jordan implemented mandatory premarital screening for thalassemia back in 2004. That's a very direct policy intervention based on genetic insights.
And these things can be complex, can't they? They often stir debate.
They absolutely can. It's what you might call controversy worth the comment section.
Huh. Right. Because on one hand, it seems like straightforward good public health. Right. Preventing a serious condition.
That's the strong argument for it, yes. Reducing suffering, easing the burden on families and the healthcare system.
But on the other hand,
Others raise valid concerns about privacy, individual autonomy, potential stigma if results affect marriage decisions. Is it the state's place to mandate this kind of testing before marriage?
it's that balance again. Both sides have a point.
They often do, and the success or acceptance of such programs really depends on how they're implemented. Counseling, confidentiality, cultural sensitivity, it all matters immensely.
So wrapping this all up, if there's one takeaway for you, our listener, what should it be?
I think it's that there isn't one simple Jordan gene. That's the starting point.
Instead, there's a really compelling Jordan story told by genetics.
Exactly. A story of incredible ancient continuity reaching back thousands of years, layered with migrations, shaped by living traditions, all reflected in the DNA today.
So, summarizing what we learned.
We've seen a population with profoundly deep Levant roots, visible even from the Bronze Age. We've touched on a few specific, well-understood health risks like thalassemia and G6PD deficiency, where smart screening makes a real difference, and we see a genome that genuinely whispers history.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over, something we touched on but maybe didn't fully explore.
Go on.
If modern Jordanians carry such a significant piece of that Bronze Age ancestry, that deep continuity, how does knowing that potentially shape or inform identity and belonging in Jordan today? What does it mean to carry millennia of history quite literally within you?
That's a deep question to end on.
It is something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Right.
We hope you'll keep exploring the amazing connections between history, culture, and genetics all around you.